Good afternoon and welcome to Storytime with Grammy Field. Today I have another book that is this is illustrated by Tasha Tudor. She's the one who wrote the one about the doll's Christmas. This one's called The Christmas Cat, and it's written by Efner Tudor Holmes. So let's see what this is about with the Christmas cat. It was the day before Christmas. It had stopped snowing, but a cold wind blew through the forest, bending the trees down and piling up great gusting drifts around them. Birds sat huddled in the treetops, their little claws that clutched the branches numb with cold. Below them, deer stood clustered together, nibbling at the bark. Perhaps they thought of sunlit woods and leaf-covered bushes, but the forest lay dark and cold. Look at that. A gray cat was struggling to walk through the deep snow. He meowed piteously. Occasionally he would stop and hold up a paw caked with icy snow. For the cat, the wintry forest was not only cold, but also dangerous and unfriendly. Owls and foxes were everywhere, ready to pounce on him. So far he had always managed to hide just in time. Once he had had a home, a warm home with soft chairs to sleep on and fresh bowls of milk for him to drink. But one day, he had come home only to find the place deserted. The door never opened for him again. Finally, after waiting in vain for several weeks, the cat left, sad and confused. He would have to seek another home. In his travels, he came upon many houses, but in each there had been a dog to chase him or another cat defending its territory. Now in the forest, the cat could not walk another step. He crept under a log and fell into an exhausted sleep. Can you see how tired he is right there? At the edge of the forest was a small farm. It was a well-kept place, and a little house looked festive, with a wreath on the door and candles in the window. Inside, Nate and Jason sat in the warm kitchen decorating gingerbread animal cookies for the Christmas tree. They felt uneasy, listening to the wind moan down the chimney and through the cracks. "Will Santa Claus be able to come in weather like this, Nate?" Jason asked. "He lives at the North Pole, so I'm sure he's used to this kind of weather," his older brother replied, smiling. "And don't eat all the icing. We have 3 more animals to do." Their mother came into the kitchen. "Finish up, boys. It's getting late, and you light the creche tonight." The creche was the most special part of Christmas. It was already set up in the old brick oven beside the big fireplace. Nate's old gray plush donkey and Jason's little toy goat stood in the hay, looking at Mary and her baby Jesus. Miniature baskets of fruit stood nearby, and carved wooden doves hovered in the corner. After their father read "The Night Before Christmas" aloud, Nate and Jason each lit a candle and placed it carefully in front of the crutch. Then the whole family stood for a few moments looking at the scene, silent with their own thoughts. A gust of wind threw some snow against the windows, and the candles flickered. "I'm glad our animals are in our nice warm barn," said Nate. "Think how cold the wild animals must be. I wish I could put them in too." "Winter can be hard on them," his father said, "but most of them are used to it." In the woods, the gray cat woke uneasily. The bitter wind had stopped, leaving the forest heavy with silence. The cat crawled out from under the log and looked around cautiously. Through the treetops, the sky was brilliant with stars. Somehow, the forest no longer seemed forbidding. The cat was aware of an unfamiliar feeling of peace. He heard a sound in the far distance. An elusive music, enveloping him, beckoned deeper into the woods, and he followed. As he went, other animals came, emerging from their dens and nests and burrows and joining him, until the forest was filled with creatures of every kind. They moved silently together through the trees until they came to a clearing bright with moonlight. The music became louder. It was the sound of bells. Into the clearing came two great horses pulling a low sled with wooden runners. Upon it stood a tall man with long hair and a beard. A small owl sat serenely on his shoulder, and other birds flew around him. At his feet were baskets full of berries and nuts. He smiled when he saw the animals gathered there. Drawing his horses to a stop, he stepped down from the sled and moved among the forest creatures, patting them and talking to them. Now and then he would cluck sympathetically at a lame leg or a paw that had been mangled by a trap. As he went, he scattered seeds on the ground. Squirrels clambered up onto his shoulders for handfuls of nuts. From the trees he hung pieces of suet for the birds, and he carried leafy branches for the deer. As he came to the cat, he stopped in surprise. "Well, well, little fellow," he said, "how did you come to be here? You belong in a warm house with soft chairs to sleep on and a saucer of milk to drink." He pulled his beard thoughtfully. "I know of a small farm not far from here," he said. "Two little boys lived there, and there isn't a finer place for an animal to live." He picked up the shivering cat and returned to the bobsled. He stood for a moment smiling at the forest animals. Then the great horses started up, and once again the music of their harness bells filled the air. The horses traveled swiftly, but the cat was no longer cold. He lay curled in a basket at the tall man's feet, lulled by the music of the bells. It was Christmas morning. Their parents were still asleep when Nate and Jason raced downstairs to the big fireplace to find their stockings. Jason, look what's here," called Nate softly. "It's a little cat." And indeed, to the boys' amazement, there was a gray cat curled up in a chair close to the fire. "But Nate, where could he have come from?" cried Jason, completely forgetting to be quiet. "I'm not sure," said his brother, looking thoughtful. "But some unexpected and wonderful things can happen when it's Christmas." The gray cat began to purr. He looked at the creche, and for a fleeting moment, he seemed to hear again the sound of distant bells. That was a really nice story. Have you ever wanted a pet animal for Christmas? Cats can be very special as well as dogs. And just remember, if you get one for Christmas, make sure you take really good care of them. And thank you so much for taking the time out to join me for reading time. Thank you.